What's up guys, my name's Tom and welcome back to the FPL Centre. Game week 4 is in the bag and the international break is upon us. Lots of things happening around game week 4. You had Salah blanked, Rashford saw red, Pogba missed a penalty, Zaha didn't even play for Palace. For lots of people I've seen around on Twitter and stuff, it looks like people are saying it's time to wildcard. I'll talk about my thoughts on that a little bit later, as well as the best way to navigate things like the Zaha injury and stuff like that. But for now, let's take a look at the boom or bust players from the weekend just gone. So first up, we have Romelu Lukaku. The Man United striker scored 2 goals from 5 shots in the box in game week 4. That's second highest for shots in the box among strikers for the game week, and 4 of them were on target as well. Through the season so far, Lukaku has 13 shots in the box. That's 1 more than Aguero, who sits on 12, and behind only Callum Wilson's 14. Lukaku's 61.5% shot accuracy is also considerably better than both the Man City and Bournemouth strikers, who both fall below 50% for that. His 7.2% ownership and what on paper looks to be relatively favourable fixtures makes Lukaku a good but relatively expensive differential option at 11 million, and it has to be said that 2 of those fixtures which you might think are favourable are against Watford away and Wolves at home, and both of those teams so far have proven to be more stubborn than you might think. Next up we have Alexandre Lacazette. Unai Emery finally went with Lacazette and Aubameyang together, Mkhitaryan obviously making way for that to happen. Lacazette recorded 4 shots in the box in comparison to Aubameyang, who recorded just 1 in game week 4, and Lacazette also kind of passed the eye test as well. He looks really up for it and playing as though he really wants to impress the manager and cement his place in that team. On paper, Arsenal have the easiest upcoming fixture run all the way to game week 10, but it's pretty clear that Emery is still trying to figure out what his best team is, and nobody in the Arsenal attack should really be considered nailed on, probably, with the exception maybe of Aubameyang. But there seems to be a lot of rotation, kind of players coming in and out, while Emery plays about with different formations and lineups and things like that. Next up, we have Eden Hazard. His 5 chances created was joint highest in game week 5. Chelsea are obviously looking to get him involved at every opportunity, as his 58 touches in the final third was highest among all midfielders for the week, and for the season he now has 204 touches in the final third. That's 73 more than Christian Eriksen, who sits in second place, and 77 more than Mo Salah, and that's obviously despite Eden Hazard only playing 90 minutes in 2 games as well. Next up, we'll take a look at some players who disappointed, and we have to go with Theo Walcott, or should I say Theo Trollcott. He just disappointed everybody, didn't he? He was the most transferred in player for game week 4, as basically every FPL manager saw him to be a pretty good replacement for Richarlison. All these transfers in, they incurred a triple price rise. He kind of soared from 6.5 mil all the way to 6.8. and he ended up being subbed on 56 minutes and recorded just 1 point for his owners. Already he's leading the way for most transfers out among midfielders ahead of game week 5, and the price drops are probably going to come just as fast as the price rises. He does have relatively good fixtures coming up though, with West Ham and Arsenal in the next 2. Both teams have kind of shown themselves to be unable to defend very effectively. So there's perfectly good chance of Walcott actually managing to record something in both of those games. But yeah, he was pretty disappointing in game week 4. Next up is Henrik Mkhitaryan. Many people were surprised to see him benched to make room in the starting 11 for Andre Lacazette. He came on for a 1-minute cameo and earned his owners 1 point. I know a lot of people were disappointed about that because they had players like Danny Ings on the bench who were kind of primed to come on and give some more points, but that little cameo there ruined it. Ramsey, I noticed, I had a quick look at the underlying stats for these guys, and Aaron Ramsey is actually matching or outperforming Mkhitaryan's underlying stats despite seeing fewer minutes so far this season. And as I mentioned when we were talking about Lacazette earlier, probably going to expect a lot of rotation in that Arsenal front line until Emery settles on what he sees as his best team. He's probably okay to own, he's probably going to pick up points here and there, but he's also probably going to be benched now and then as Emery plays around with the lineups. Next up, and finally, we have Marko Arnautovic. 2 goals in 4 is basically what you'd expect for a 7 million striker option. He's done okay so far. He's been in my team and I've been pretty happy with him. He did have a very disappointing home game though against Wolves, with only 2 shots recorded in that game, one of which was from inside the box. West Ham as a team, they're just not looking good right now, and to be honest, after the next game against Everton, their fixtures do not make for a very pleasant viewing as they face Chelsea and Man United back to back. So I have to say that if you own Arnautovic, maybe you give him one more week to see what he can do against that Everton team with the defensive struggles that they've got. But after that, you might be looking at kind of transferring him out, bringing in a replacement, at least until his fixtures kind of soften up a bit and look a bit brighter. So that's it for the key players, the booms and the busts. Let's now move on and we'll take a look at how the team did in Game Week 4. So in Game Week 4, a very disappointing score of 40 points sees a drop of around 153k down to 395,128th place, just hanging on inside the top 400k there with a total of 250 points so far in the season. We've averaged 62.5 points per week though over the 4 game weeks so far, so while the last 2 game weeks have not been ideal, last week we got 53, which was just above the average. This week we scored 40, just below the average. Like I say, not ideal over the past couple of weeks, but still pretty satisfied with how things have gone so far. And yeah, all our chips are in play. We haven't kind of used a wildcard yet. We haven't used any of our triple captain, bench boost or free hit. So yeah, looking forward to kind of making some progress over the next few game weeks. In goal, Fabianski returned 3 points for us in Game Week 4 in West Ham's home loss to Wolves, losing his clean sheet there unfortunately by conceding an injury time goal in the 93rd minute. As you can imagine, I was maybe a little bit annoyed about that. In defence, no clean sheets this week, but both Robertson and Mendy contributed with assists to score 5 points each. Hector Bellerin's return of 0 was extremely disappointed as Arsenal conceded twice in their away trip to Cardiff, a team by the way who hadn't scored a league goal since April. Bellerin also got himself booked as well to ensure his fate really as the man to make way for Marcos Alonso in one of 2 transfers that I'm looking to make over the international break. In midfield, Mohamed Salah blanked for the first time this season, but still looked threatening and still looked dangerous, and on another day he could easily have come away with 2 goals from Liverpool's win over Leicester. Christian Eriksen blanked in Spurs' away loss to Watford as well on Sunday. Pedro came off the bench for Chelsea and netted the opening goal in their 2-0 win over Bournemouth, thankfully picking up 6 points for us there. But Bernardo Silva could not make the same kind of impact off the bench for Man City, so just the 1 point from him there. The Portuguese midfielder is likely to be the second player transferred out though over the international break. We need the funds freed up to bring in Marcos Alonso for Bellerin, and Bournemouth's Ryan Fraser is the current favourite to take his spot in the team. For the forwards, no returns of any kind from Marco Arnautovic or Callum Wilson, although the Bournemouth striker did come very close to scoring a big chance against Chelsea. Sergio Aguero was our captain in Game Week 4 and he at least got an assist to provide a vital 12 points for us there. Next up, we'll take a quick look at the FPL Centre Mini-League. Here we go guys, and we have a brand new leader at the top of the league following Game Week 4. Angelo Lean, with his team toasting myself off, scored 57 for the week despite the Zaha injury and now has a 19-point lead over Frankie Donnellan, who is still holding on to that second place spot for the 4th consecutive week now. Shout out as well to Rodrigo Montero in 3rd place, a newcomer to the league who was in the comments last week's video, also doing very well there. For the 3rd week in a row, I've got a red arrow to deal with in the FPL Centre Mini League. I am dropping like a stone here and I now find myself in 48th place. So yeah, I just wanted to finish up with a quick chat about how I think things have gone so far this season. Firstly, you might have seen on Twitter that I was tempted to hit the wildcard button on the weekend. I did not end up doing it, and I'm glad that I didn't, as I really don't think my team is in that bad of a place right now. I think I am going to have to bring in Alonso like I mentioned earlier in the video. I'll need to take a 4-point hit to do that, but I think that's okay. There aren't really any other standout options that I prefer that much over what I already have, at least not to the extent that I think a wildcard is needed. Hazard maybe, but I think I'm okay to wait a little longer there. Of course I could come to regret that, but I have Pedro from Chelsea already, who's 4 million cheaper. I know that there's some rotation risk there with Willian, but he is playing very well. I think Sarri likes him in that system, and I don't really see him as a fire that needs to be like put out right now. It's not kind of any emergency there. So I think, yeah, I'll stick with Pedro for now. Elsewhere, Mane is not someone that I really want to bring in right now. Obviously, starting the season with Eriksen over Mane was a mistake, and anyone who went with Mane from the start kind of has reaped the rewards there. But in the kind of upcoming fixtures, Liverpool have a very tough schedule in both the league and in Europe. Klopp has already said to expect some rotation, and I think there can also be some regression expected, as it's incredibly unlikely that Mane will be able to sustain the 40% goal conversion rate that he's enjoyed so far. Salah has the better underlying stats. Of course, he is a bit more expensive, and so you might expect more returns for the money. But yeah, he's generally looking more dangerous, better underlying stats. I think he's the one I'm going to stick with him. Again, it's the kind of scenario where if I didn't have Salah, I would not be looking to transfer him in. But since I already have him, and he's performed perfectly well for me so far, he's also not someone that I really think needs to be transferred out. Up front, I'm keeping a close eye on Mitrovic, and after game week 5, where he faces Man City away, in what should be considered a pretty tough fixture there, Arnautovic in game week 5, he has Everton in a nicer fixture, and I've already got Arnautovic, so I think I'll hang on for one more week. But then after that, I think it makes sense to swap those guys and bring in Mitrovic for Arnautovic, as the Fulham striker has much better fixtures then for the following 4 to 5 game weeks. If you own Zaha in that price bracket, you might have been tempted to kind of move him out following the injury news there. To be honest, if you've had him since he was 7 mil at the start of the game, I don't think there's any reason to panic or sell right now, as he's already incurred a 0.1 price rise. So even if he gets a 0.1 price drop, it's not going to affect your team value. He's a quality player who's got 2 weeks to rest and recover, so I guess just keep an eye out for news, and hopefully he'll be available for the game against Huddersfield in game week 5. As far as the channel and the international break goes, I do have a couple more videos planned, like different ideas that I want to try out, so make sure you get subscribed and let me know what you think when they drop. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and yeah, that's all for today, so I'll see you guys again soon.